This is the business of pop culture, where we explore the intersection of entertainment, media, and consumer engagement. So, Julia, this week we're going to be talking about the intersection of sports and cartoons. Is that correct?
It is. It's actually a pretty cool thing that Disney did on March 14th. They had what they called the NHL Big City Greens Classic, which was a live and animated North American Hockey League match between the Washington Capitals and the New York Rangers, with involvement from one of Disney's favorite cartoon properties, Big City Greens.
So what was this whole project all about then? How did Disney Animation get involved?
So they called it an alternative presentation, and they basically used live, real-time volumetric animation to turn the teams and its players into sort of animated versions of themselves and also intersperse the match with characters from the cartoon.
We set up 43 motion capture cameras here in Studio Z. Our talent will be wearing motion capture suits. You will see, instead of Drew and Kevin in human form, they will be cartoons for the entire game.
It's quite an interesting sort of sports tech entertainment blend here, because they've done this using the NHL's Edge technology, which is their own data product that they use to track the positions of the puck and players during the match, which of course is good for game stats, but can also be used for sort of entertainment enhancements.
How were you able to watch this? Was this happening on a separate broadcast?
No, it wasn't actually. It was, you had your standard main broadcast on ESPN, which didn't have any of that, kid stuff. But was also live broadcast on ESPN Plus as an option, and Disney Plus on their digital broadcasters, and I believe on Disney Channel as well.
So I guess this is an attempt by NHL and ESPN to encourage a younger audience to watch the match. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we've seen actually quite similar projects of this sort of nature previously. So Nickelodeon have broadcast an NFL football game on their Nickelodeon mobile app previously, where similarly they had sort of their own Nickelodeon branded visualizing flavors in there, like SpongeBob SquarePants might show up at the goalposts. And we're really seeing more of these sort of approaches to cutting up central entertainment for a broader audience in the adult market as well. Amazon, who've bought the rights to broadcast Thursday Night Football in America, they are offering alternate video commentary for their digital streams of these matches. So adult audiences kind of choose different cultural lenses through which they might consume a football match. So while they do have like classic football commentary, audiences can also maybe have the YouTube Sports channel Dude Perfect to do a video commentary, or in fact LeBron James' talk show The Shop have also done a live commentary on Amazon for a football match. And I think I'd kind of like to describing this as sort of the idea of making the mainstream modular. So you've got your central event, and something that commands a huge audience, and then you create companion live content to cater to specific cultural interest groups within that audience. Tech companies are now increasingly live streamers, and established media companies are really picking up on the opportunities in this space for kind of modulated different cultural lenses, especially in the sporting sector, which is a huge audience magnet, obviously. The NFL broadcast, I believe it's some 82 of the 100 most watched TV broadcasts in the US last year. So it is a huge audience draw. And then, of course, for brands of any sector, it then becomes interesting, how can you then take these massive audiences and actually slice them up with different cultural perspectives to actually broaden the audience field again. And in fact, like a really interesting case study of how you can always take a sports audience and find different subcultures within it is Netflix's docuseries in the sports sectors, especially the Drive to Survive Formula One documentary, which has just dropped their 5th season. And they've basically given rise to what is currently slightly tongue-in-cheek, but I think actually is more of like a veneration called the Formula One fangirls. I mean, the Formula One is sort of notoriously a very secretive sport, and by adding this docuseries to each season, you're bringing the personal interest back into fandom, and it's just opening up this sort of narrative-driven engagement around sports competition, which is proving as a massive boon to both Formula One and Netflix, who are currently rolling out a number of sports docuseries. Tennis, golf, and in fact the American Football League have just signed a deal to have their own docuseries going into production later this year. I do think it's really interesting because basically with the technological advances of digital broadcasting, especially where you have optional channels that people can pick between from the same brand provider, like say Disney in this case, you really have the social diversification of audience that we see in an online social spaces come back around to the broadcasting and publishing business itself. And so there are huge audience growth opportunities in these kind of modular events that acknowledge there are specific interest groups that can now be addressed in simultaneous broadcasts that are just inflected with different perspectives. And I think this is where it gets really interesting. And also there's a bit more on this in our March 2023 Pop Culture Pulse if you want to read more about the Formula One fangirls.
Fantastic. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Julia, and I'll see you next week.